Hello and welcome into my shop. My name is Scott and today we are going to be doing a review of Bucktool's new 16-inch variable speed scroll saw. Well, first off, Bucktool just released two new scroll saw models. They released a 16-inch and an 18-inch model. They got a hold of me and asked me if I wanted to test one out. I said sure, and they sent me over the 16-inch. This is not a paid review. They're just looking for an honest review. They are offering a commission with an Amazon link. So if you do decide to buy the saw, if you click the link, it's not going to cost you any more. But the channel will get a little money, and we're going to use that money to put it right back into the YouTube channel. We're not going to buy delicious cheeseburgers with it or anything, just so you know. We'll also help them track the performance of this video. If you notice during the review that this saw is dusty, that's because I tested the saw for over 16 hours before we recorded any video. I did live stream the majority of the testing. There are 3 different live streams. They're fairly redundant, but they are available for viewing. If you want to see them, I'll put a link in the description for those as well. As far as unboxing goes, the saw comes pretty much fully assembled. Even before you open up the box, it tells you how to lift your saw. Yeah, don't carry it by this arm. Bad things can happen. So, pretty much fully assembled. The only thing that's not hooked up is this dust hood right here. And that's just held in place with 2 screws. So in the box, you get the saw, the dust hood. You get an adapter so you can run your vacuum out the side. It comes with 2 scroll saw blades. It comes with 1 attached, 1 in the bag. And it comes with 2 Allen keys. Let's look at the dimensions of the saw. So the overall height of the saw is 16.54 inches. The length of the saw is 27.95 inches, and the width is 13.38 inches. The table itself is 19.7 inches from the front to the back, and from left to right is 13.38 inches. If you check out Bucktool's Amazon listing, they also have a 16-ounce claw hammer. So if you're curious on how many claw hammers big it is, it's right there, which I love because I do not have a lot of bananas in my workshop for scale. This is a 16-inch saw, which means the throat depth is 16 inches. So between the blade and the back of the saw is 16 inches. The weight of the saw is 53 pounds. It uses 120 volt standard US power. The power cord itself is 77 inches or 6 feet, 5 inches. It takes 5-inch pinless blades and has a 2-inch cutting depth. Saw will tilt 30 degrees to the left and 45 degrees to the right. There is a locking pin which will hold the upper arm in the raised position. The nice thing about the 16-inch saw is that I can reach the pin without getting out of my chair. So the no load speed of the saw, so if you turn the saw on and you're not cutting, at the lowest speed it's 360 and at the highest speed it's 1,550 RPMs. These were the first ones off the assembly line. The ones that are being made right now, they did raise the lower speed from 360 up to 550 RPMs. And this saw also has a 2-year warranty. Let's check out the dust extraction. I do have a vacuum hooked up here. So I put some sawdust up here. This is like way more sawdust than you're gonna produce on your scroll saw all at once. So we'll turn on the vacuum. All right, let's shut off the vacuum and check it out. So we have this piece of construction paper here. Now I put a lot of sawdust down there. And what do we have? 4 or 5 little dots, maybe 6. I mean, this does work and it works very well. All right, so I went in the back and I pulled out a very common style 16-inch parallel arm saw where the Bucktool is a double parallel arm saw. They both work fine. The double parallel arm saw provides a more aggressive straight up and down cut. And it cuts faster, while the standard parallel arm saw is simpler as far as the mechanisms go, but the 2-arm system is more prone to vibration. So that being said, they both work. This one cuts faster, it feels smoother. If you're looking at upgrading, just that sole purpose there is probably worth it. So as far as taking the blades off, this one is keyless, that one you need a key. The tensioning, so if I want to take the tension off this blade, I just pull up on this cam on the front and there's no tension. With this style, if I wanted to take the tension off, I have to reach to the back and unscrew this knob. Now, this one also has a knob in the back for fine-tuning the tension. So once you put the blade on, tighten it, set the tension, it should be good to go until maybe you change out to a different style blade, and then you might have to adjust the tension a little bit. But being keyless, it just makes this so much faster. So I'll actually demonstrate that. I will move the saw a little bit closer. So I am working from the side, which is a little bit weird for me, so bear with me. So right now we're under tension. We're going to take the tension off, thumb screw on the top, thumb screw on the bottom, and then the blade comes off. To put the blade back on, just going to put the blade in the holder, come down to the bottom. I am sitting at a very peculiar angle. So there we go. And then tension, and you're good to cut again. Where if we come over to this style saw, to loosen up the tension, I have to reach to the back of the saw and spin this out, right? So the tension's off. I can take it off the top of the blade if I'm doing internal cuts. If I'm going to remove the blade, I'm going to leave it up here, come down to the bottom. I'm going to have to use this Allen key, loosen it up, and then you're able to get the blade off. So to get the blade back on, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come up on the top, put the blade in. Now when I put it down in the slot, I'm going to put my key in first. So you also have to push down on the saw because it's spring-loaded. So you kind of have to push down and screw it in. The Bucktool, you can raise the upper arm, and now you have a whole bunch of clearance to get your board in. Where this saw, I'm going to take the tension off, bring the blade off, and your only option is to bend the scroll saw blade. So there's no clearance. I've got this board here with a hole in the center. So, I mean, it's doable. I'm just going to bend the blade. But you got to be careful that you don't go too far and then really bend your blade. And then you would tighten it up and you're good to go. Now on the Bucktool saw, since I have this arm lifted up, I have like a ton of room. So I can just bring this in, set it down. Now there's a pin in the back. You pull that pin out, and then you can drop the blade down. Well, drop the arm down. Tighten it up, and you're good to go. So there's just a convenience factor. Just makes things easier. So both these saws, you can make angled cuts with. So this one, the table turns to the right 45 degrees. I mean, you can go anywhere from 0 to 45, lock it in place. Where the Bucktool, you have a rack and pinion system. So you loosen this kip handle up, it'll go 30 degrees to the left and then 45 to the right. So we're gonna bring it over to 45, lock it in place. So both these saws are at 45 degree angles. Now, when I go to cut, let's say I want to cut just a 45 degree angle down this board. So I'm going to put it on here. So not only am I going to be making sure that I'm not going to cut myself because the blade is in a different orientation, you're also going to be fighting gravity, right? So there's going to be a lot of wiggling and try to hold it up. Where if you come to this saw, since the saw rotates around the table, you have a flat table. So it feels way more natural, and it's so much nicer. So that's also a huge advantage as far as I'm concerned. Another thing is the rack and pinion system. If your saw has just a slot that it goes into, the saw is going to want to knock itself out of square. Where this one, the table doesn't pivot at all, so it tends to stay true a lot longer. Now I'm going to screw this back to 0, so Loosen up my kip handle. Loosen up my kip handle, there we go. Bring it in. Now, it's got stops, so when it gets to square, you can feel a little click right there. You can tighten up that kip handle. Take my square, and we're good. This one, let's check for square. It's a little bit off, so I'm going to loosen this up and then tighten it. This saw here, the table is much smaller, so if you're using big pieces of material, a bigger table, you get more support. This design, you have a huge hole here that I'm putting my finger in. I refer to this as the pit of despair. If I was cutting small things, I would actually have a sheet of plexiglass with a hole in it that would sit over the top to make it like a zero clearance table, because that is just ridiculous. So you come over here, you can see how much smaller that hole is. All right, so I thought I'd show you my workbench before we got cutting. It is bolted to this bench. It is just made out of 2x4s. I have anti-fatigue mats underneath it, and then I have it bolted to the floor. I'm in an old building, and the floors are not the most solid in the world. If I was on cement, it would be much nicer. I am going to be using a foot pedal to turn the saw on and off. We're going to be cutting out this little love sign. This is cherry. So we'll start out with the internal cuts. So I already drilled a little hole in there. So we'll bring it in, pull the pin, got the blade in there, and let's get cutting. So I mounted the pattern on with blue painter's tape. So I took the wood, put blue painter's tape down, and then I used spray adhesive to put the paper pattern on. Now we do have chapters, so if you want to skip this, feel free. So I have 2 more holes to drill. So I keep a drill press right next to my saw. Just makes it real convenient. Since this is so small, I'm not going to lift up the arm. So the big thing is, let the blade do its work. Take your time. So we got all the internal cuts made, so now it's just going to be one big stroke all the way around. Now remember, the lines are a guide. If you don't follow them exactly, once you take the pattern off,
most likely nobody's going to notice. Just do the best you can. Squirrel sawing is all about having fun. So the first time I looked at this style saw, I was concerned about the chucks on it because they're not as refined as some other ones. Honestly, I've been running a different saw with the same chuck on it for over a year now, and it's just been wonderful. They're very simple, but they work. I mean, if you want to, you could get some Pegasus chucks if you wanted to do an upgrade, but it's really not necessary. But it is an option. They do fit on this saw. All right, let's see how we did. Now we're going to peel the pattern off the wood. And there we go. A nice little love sign for my love. I did run the saw for 16 hours. If you want to watch just normal cutting over all that time, you absolutely can. I'm going to call this good, and we'll do some final thoughts. So there we go. I thought I'd just run the saw and show you what it sounds like. So I'm going to start the saw out at 1, nice and quiet. Come up to about 6. Still very little vibration. It feels really good. 7, it starts getting a little bit louder. And then when I get to 8, kind of settles in a little bit. Now I can feel a vibration. Good thing my girlfriend can't hear me. Otherwise it'd be turning into some Marky Mark stuff right now. I mean, even at full speed, it cuts fine. It just has a little vibration to it. All right, we got to the end of the video, and now we're kind of getting more towards the review section of it. It's a good saw. Like I said, I ran it for 16 hours before I started recording. No real big hiccups. Everything just, when I first turned it on, it was a little bit loud, but everything kind of worked itself in after a few minutes and it settled down right away. But yeah, I mean, this is a sub $500 saw. Right now on Amazon, it's $349.99. So it's right around $350. If you're looking at a similar saw that's 16 inches with the double parallel arms, you're going to be spending a lot more than that, probably double that. All right. So kind of when I did the comparison, this saw, would be a great first saw. It's something you wouldn't outgrow right away. And if you're upgrading, if you saved your money and bought, a 16-inch saw that only takes pin and blades, and then you realize that you really want a saw without pins because it's really hard to do interior cuts, especially if they're small with the pin end blade, because you have to drill a hole big enough in order to get that pin through. They do make adapters, but they take time. They're fidgety. If you're cutting out something that has hundreds of internal cuts, it could get old really, really fast. So it's also ideal if you have a smaller shop or if you plan on moving the saw around. It's going to be a little bit shorter. Now, I've been scroll sawing since 1987, and honestly, a 16-inch saw would cut out about 99% of everything I've ever cut out in my entire life. Unless you plan on making really big things. I mean, it's a great size. It really is. It's kind of like the Goldilocks size. Yeah, the last time I had my main saw blow out, I was really looking for a 16-inch saw, and I just couldn't rationalize the price they were asking for them. This one is a decent price. It's a decent saw. I've been using a similar style saw for over a year now, and I've had no problems with it. This is a great saw, guys. So we're going to call the review done there. But like I said, if you want to watch, the live streams, you can. Once again, if you want to look at the saw on Amazon, there's a link in the description. And if you do decide to buy the saw and you want to help support the channel, you can click on that link. And that's about it, I would like to thank Bucktool for sending it over. If you need any other woodworking equipment looked at, let me know, and we'll go from there. So thank you guys much, and we'll catch you next time. So have a great day, or night, or weekend, or weekday, or whatever. Have a good one.